Well, one thing that is very interesting that's come out of this that does relate to all this Black Lives Matter retardation. The National Strategy for Countering the NSC has now defined domestic terrorism as activities that involve acts dangerous to human life that are a violation of the criminal laws of the United States or of any state, appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce the civilian population, to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the government, or to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping, and occur primarily within the jurisdiction of the United States. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. Suck a dick.
I agree with.
By that definition, Black Lives Matter and Antifa are terrorist organizations. Let's fucking go. Let's round them all up.
Yeah, don't even gotta think about it, dude.
Yeah, acts dangerous to human life, intended to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion. Yep, boom, done. Terrorism. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, you've missed the sub appendix that says this only applies to white people. Though.
Oh shit, that's right. Could have seen that.
Yeah, it's in the very very fine print, but it is there.
Yeah, I'll be right back in like a minute.
Yeah, although domestic terrorism can focus on a wide range of ideas, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, principally those who promote the superiority of the white race. Oh, there we go. You were actually dead set on the money.
On the upshot, a lot of these racist problems will be sorted when China eventually wins against the West. You won't have to worry about white on black racism anymore because the Chinese will just get rid of them. From the posters, from movie posters.
I wonder if Biden has asked the Chinese Communist Party what their opinion on Black Lives Matter is.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
I bet it's interesting. That's such fucking bullshit, isn't it?
It's just ridiculous.
I have to say, I was very disappointed that with Biden having been at the G7 and the Queen being there, that nobody did any memes of him sniffing Princess Charlotte.
Yes. Oh, here we go. The NSC does, it appears, include anarchist violent extremists who violently oppose all forms of capitalism, corporate globalization, and governing institutions which they perceive as harmful to society. So, communists.
So that's BLM.
Yeah. And so, by their definitions, which is more dangerous? The white supremacists who have had, let's be generous and say, one incident in the last 2 years, compared to the one that's had how many thousands?
Oh, yeah. Which results in Rick Moranis getting punched in the head.
Yes. Yeah, because they describe the riot at the United States Capitol as a terrorist attack. Well, if that's a fucking terrorist attack, like we're saying, everything BLM's ever done is a terrorist incident.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course it is. Of course. I mean, look, the Biden government the Democratic government knows very, very, very well that it was a terrorist attack because the terrorists were Democratic FBI agents.
Well, this is true.
So they should know. They know when they've done terrorism.
Yep. Does it count as terrorism if the government's doing it to itself?
I think probably. We're still trying to create terror. I mean, you know it's going to cut. You know, in time, it's going to come out that was completely orchestrated. I mean, it's not even. I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory, is it? It just seems very, very likely that the people pushing down the people that they've not been able to identify, and conveniently with only people that were. It's amazing that the only people that were wearing masks are the only people that turned
haven't
out
been
to
charged.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny how that works out.
Really interesting, isn't it?
Yep. What's interesting...
And the videos appear to show that the people with the masks are the people breaking down the barriers. It could possibly be that
Yes, they
basically
couldn't
they just went
possibly
there
be
and
glow in the
incited a riot.
darks, could they?
No, not
So the administration has apparently already ramped up investigations into domestic terror groups. According to FBI Director Sam Wanker, the total number of domestic terrorism investigations increased to 2,000 from 1,400 at the end of last year, per the Washington Post, including around 500 investigations into individuals who allegedly participated in the Capitol riot. Right, so since the end of last year, 100 extra investigations that weren't related to the Capitol. That's odd.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Black Lives Matter has committed more than 100 terrorist incidents. And that's not even counting the individuals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's obviously, you know.
Yeah. Oh, let's go. There's some comments on the site. This is going to be fun.
Oh. Okay. Well, on the website.
On the Daily Wire. If they were
Oh,
on our website, that'd be even cooler.
That's what I was just going to say. Really? What kind of fucking losers put stuff on that?
The best kind. The base kind.
Just so all our listeners know, I have no respect.
You've got no respect for anyone except yourself. We know this. We've been over it before.
I'm not even that keen on myself. Natural self-loathing is required as well.
Yeah.
Keeps you based.
Yeah. So let's see some of these comments. So basically, they're afraid that ex-military personnel may remain loyal to their oath to the Constitution of the United States and actively resist government tyranny. As such, they seek to brainwash or turn them into submission. Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said, wasn't it? Really, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely people you might be a bit concerned about. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the people you train to kill brown people abroad might stand up for the Constitution. Holy shit, that's a fucking, you know. Imagine not being a traitorous. I imagine it must be quite difficult for the Democrats to consider somebody not being a traitorous cunt. But yeah.
Yes, I imagine it must be hard for them.
Turns out some people actually have some, you know, dignity and you know, respect for their country and the Constitution. It's quite an alien concept for the leftists, I suppose. But you know, anyone who is prepared to, you know, shop their granny for their thought crimes, you know,
yeah,
probably would find that sort of thing quite difficult to understand. A sense of duty and morality.
Duty, morality, yeah, leftists aren't familiar with either of those.
No.
It's good to see that there's several comments that are basically saying what we've said already. Sounds a lot like BLM and Antifa.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, has there actually been any domestic terrorism that hasn't just been the FBI in like the last 2 years? Other than, of course, Antifa.
And 9/11. Oh no, that was the government as well. I'm not supposed to say that on YouTube,
Probably not. But fuck it at this point.
The government, though.
After Spoon, what chance do we have now?
Oh yeah, well. You know, I like people to have conviction at least.
Oh, that's
and when
true.
I say conviction, I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, the conviction in his case will probably be a custodial one. So.
Well, just make sure he never actually goes into the UK, or he's banned.
Well, I'm not sure you can say that in Ireland either, to be fair.
Well, it depends on which part of Ireland.
Well, he's in the south, but he's in the EU part.
Yeah.
So I'd say no.
Yeah, probably. The EU are desperately trying to do it.
Well, he definitely can't deny the Holocaust, for instance.
Yep. God forbid you have freedom of speech.
Which is one of the few things in Britain you still can do in Britain.
Are you sure about that? Just don't film it and put it on YouTube.
No. You can still deny it here.
Yeah, just don't film it and put it on the internet. Because I'm sure they'd do you for their gross offence bullshit.
Well, you can't. It's not criminal to deny it in this country. It's
Yeah.
criminal in the EU, but it's not criminal here.
I'm sure they'd get it under that section, whatever it is, bullshit.
No, they put it down as a non-crime hate incident or something.
Eh. I'm sure if you put it on the internet, they'd try and prosecute it. Don't know whether or not they'd be
Probably.
successful is another thing, but I'm damn sure they'd try and prosecute it.
Yeah, probably. Especially as I'm in Scotland.
Scotland's a failed state.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be for a rolling back devolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, is to simply give Scotland independence when it wants it. Take back the navy, take back the navy and all the military equipment, and then just invade.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's what I would do, and I am Scottish, so you know, I'd be okay with it. Of course, the other thing you do is just wait a couple of months until it goes fucking bust and buy it back.
Yep. I am just looking to see if I can find a article, because we've recently had a judge in Australia confirm that our constitution does not guarantee free speech.
Nice. I mean, like, the idea that the fucking EU is just going to let Scotland stroll into it is just absolute nonsense. Especially as I don't actually think there'll be much of an EU left by the time Scotland's in a position to go in. I think we'll see the fall of the EU. I think we'll see the fall of the EU within the next 5 years.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it.
I said it years ago. And I reckon it'll still be true. I think Germany might be the next one out.
Would be interesting, that's for sure.
Well, once Merkel's gone, you know, it's going to be difficult. A lot of people won't want to justify the financial, because Germany's propping the whole thing up financially, and I don't think it's going to be hard to get another person prepared to put Germany into hot constantly to bail it out.
Yeah, their economy isn't doing great either.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been teetering for ages, but it's one thing for Merkel to have the political will to do it, and people just comfortable with her being there. But for a new person to come in and just go, oh yeah, we'll just don't worry about our economy. We'll
Yes.
Very different proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, someone finally gets around to asking the question of why exactly are we paying to pop up Greece?
Yeah. Yeah, these arseholes do hate us.
Yep, not to mention the lockdown. I'm pretty sure all the lockdowns in the EU would piss off if the EU stopped providing money to the places that only exist on tourism.
Yeah. That's tricky. But I can't see it. I just can't see it lasting. The Italians will go, or the Germans will go, or the French will, French might fucking.
Yeah. Well,
all of these places are slow.
If the French go, it's definitely done. But even if one of the others goes, they're probably done. Eh?
Yeah, any of the top 5, I guess.
Well, at this point, it's rapidly getting to the point where even if one of the bottom lot goes, they're screwed.
Well,
if anything other than Greece leaves, they're in pretty deep water.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, you see constantly that just each year goes past, we're just sliding further and further right. The countries, France and Italy, especially.
Yeah, well,
most of the countries, the losing opposition all have a policy of investigating leaving, don't they?
Yeah.
So the AFT, they want out. The Italian one, I can't remember what they're called. They want out. The Le Pen says should go out. So you only need one of these countries for the vote in the opposing party, and it's all done.
And because the world's going so insane, the right wing's rapidly gaining popularity without actually doing anything.
Well, yeah, well, they weren't even that right wing. They were mostly sort of right of centre.
Yeah, just right of centre.
They're only right wing now because the left is moving so far left.
Yep. It's crazy.
The far right is 1 inch right of centre, and the far left is 100 million miles left of centre.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not a seesaw you could balance. The far right and the far left. I don't think Flake's coming back, do you?
He might not be. If he doesn't come back in 20 minutes, I might call it then. I'm rapidly getting hungry. Billy Blog says, I thought Australia is based. No, Sky News is based. Australia is a failed state.
Is Billy just the only person listening to us?
There's still a couple of the others, though. I think they're probably just got on in the background.
Yeah. He's the only one who seems to be ever asked anything.
Yeah, the other guys do ask a few things. Billy's just the one that's hanging around.
I don't see the chat, you see, because I'm just on my phone. I'm not watching it on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube. So
Now we've got some good people in the chat.
I have returned.
Oh, there you are.
There you go.
Excellent. So BLM and Antifa confirmed as terrorist organisations.
Based.
By their own definition in that article you gave us.
Well, the thing is, the regressive left is regressive. And now to talk to us from a non-regressive member of the non-regressive left is Sam Harris, noted non-regressive.
Solomon Guthrie's and Melancholy Poet have just popped in to say hi. Well, yep, Solomon has it on in the background. We're playing Factoria. Good game. Excellent taste. And Melancholy Poet says Australia's a freaking dictatorship at this point. I wouldn't go that far. If it was a dictatorship, we might get the trains to run on time. Not competent enough of a shithole to be a dictatorship. Yeah,
I would like to point out.
Yeah.
I would like to point out of all the countries I've lived in, my favourite one was a dictatorship. So.
Yeah, that seems reasonable these days.
Singapore's a dictatorship. It has a government, but it is a dictatorship.
Yeah, did not know that.
Oh yeah. Hereditary dictatorship.
I mean, kind of seems like one of the most interesting things to think about in modern society is that oil guy. Have you ever read C.S. Lewis's essay on chivalry?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Well, he points out something
very...
ago. Yeah, he points out something very specific, which is that the problem of a classless society is that in a society with like more classes and shit, chivalry was maintained through the social structure. So you have like a specialized class of people who were chivalrous. Nice. And then you had exactly. And then that would spread to the other classes through either imitation or coercion, right? And so in the modern day, it's like, what do you have? And it's not just, there's that question with a lot of shit with like, do you end up with the virtues of all classes or the sediment of them? And it's kind of like you get that question in democracy in the modern day. It's like we're left with the consequence of, like, I'm not anti-democracy, but in the past, it was kind of the thing where the government would make that decision and the people wouldn't have control over it. So they wouldn't be at each other's throats in the same way they are in the modern day. So it's like that's an adjustment where we have to realize this is putting us at each other's throats. How do we deal with that? Or with gender, for example, masculine and feminine gender roles both have virtues they put on the specific sexes. So with the loosening of that, do we get the best of both worlds? Do we get guys who, on top of having the manly virtues, are also taught to be comfortable talking about their emotions and being vulnerable where the situation requires it, and like being caring and being restrained in their sexual indulgence? And do we get women who, keeping the feminine virtues, are also like, yeah, adventurous, go hard, go get it kind of thing? Do we have people who, in Jungian terms, are integrating their anima or animuses, or is more of what we see in the abolition of gender norms, people holding themselves to no standards? So, like, you have the male who isn't like, who doesn't have the feminine virtues, but also abandons responsibility, stoicism, and shit, and is like a coomer in his basement covered in Cheeto dust and has emotional breakdowns. Do we have women who, on top of being femininely, do they like adopt the masculine virtues, or do you have a bunch of women going on slut walks and doing OnlyFans? So it's like
Well, it's
a
pretty
removal
simple,
of
isn't it?
like,
I mean,
yeah, but it's
look,
like as a
in your medieval times, your heraldic knights were the celebrities, right?
yeah.
So people always idolize for good or bad the celebrities of the day. At the time, the celebrities, the common folk would have known the names of local knights, and they would have heard from heralds and things like that the deeds of those knights.
Yeah,
And now
but I
the
mean,
modern
kind of
equivalent, and they would have espoused, manly traits and chivalry, and good things like that. And your modern celebrities, just
slut
show their
walks.
fanny on TikTok and do slut
Yeah,
walks and tell you and spend all their day telling you that you're a bad person.
but it's not just the
People absorb that shit.
celebrities. It's also a question of the people. If we remove specific roles for specific types of people, is it the case that they adopt all of the good expectations that a society can put on the person, or that they're merely escaping the expectations? And so it's kind of like, if we are to liberalize society to give people more individual freedom and not be like, if you're this sex you have to do this, or if you're this class you have to do this, then the individual necessarily needs to take on more responsibility in like integrating the virtues of what was previously divided. Yes, is kind of my point.
Oh right, yeah.
Like if the gender roles are kind of like loosening somewhat, then it needs to be the case that men take on masculine virtues and then adopt some of the feminine, and that women take on feminine virtues and adopt some of the masculine, as opposed to just this complete abolition of standards. Like
But
if we're abolishing
just
gender roles, then the expectation is that people should be a synthesis of what is the best from both. But the
that
reality
just
is
leaves
that
you
we're
with
putting no
hermaphrodites.
expectations. Yeah.
What you've got to do is maintain your attractiveness to the other sex. So, depends what you want.
True.
I won't be adopting any trait.
Well, no, I think there are some traits from women that are like useful for guys. Like for example, like the women have traditionally been the people who kept the sexual degeneracy in check by being more guarded about that kind of thing. I think a guy can be more guarded about that kind of thing and have higher standards and be like, I'm not just going to engage in one night stands and still be a man. Or still, like, a man can be comfortable talking about his emotions and getting into like his problems with other men, but in the appropriate context, where when the situation requires it, he's still like completely stoic. Like, because in my own upbringing,
I think men always did that. I mean, you're
yeah.
not telling
Well,
me
I mean,
historically through life men have never shared their emotions with other men.
I know that's
I
kind
mean,
of a ridiculous caricature, because I see a lot of
it's a
people who are like
stupid thing to win.
well, toxic masculinity, people will make that claim, but from my own upbringing as a dude, I know that me personally, I stay composed in like public situations, but then with people who are
That,
close to me,
that,
I'm
that,
willing to
that,
get into
that,
my
that,
feelings and shit. So it's
that's
like
a
I have the outlet.
That's a feminist talking point, because men won't share their feelings with women, not because men don't share their feelings with men. You know? That's just them all angry because we won't tell them what we think of our relationship for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like,
But that is the
it's amazing.
question. If you remove like specialized moral expectations on people, like if you remove a division of moral expectations between different groups of people, then you have to still have those expectations if you're doing it in the right way, and you remove moral expectations that are divided between certain populations. You put like all of the moral expectations on each individual and expect them to be better, as opposed to getting rid of the categories and getting rid of all of moral expectations on them. Therefore, that's kind of like my thought on this, and this is kind of like in line
Well,
with the
I don't think
founding
we should be
fathers.
getting rid of the. I don't think we should be getting rid of the moral expectations of people's genders and
Right.
roles. Look, the only
Exactly.
thing
I agree with you there. I'm not a gender
the only thing
abolitionist.
the only thing I think men should be taking from the women's movement is to care a bit more about other men. Because the only reason why there isn't a successful men's rights activism in the world is because men generally don't care what happens to other men. Women would never stand by and see the things that happen to women without speaking out about them. But men see it all the time and go, well, that guy's probably just a pussy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't agree with getting rid of the distinctions, but the point is, if you are going to get rid of them, then you should aim for the Ubermensch and not the Untermensch.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's an awful lot of soyness. I think part of the problem is as well, like historically, a lot of these little fannies would have been eliminated through various means. They'd have talked some shit to another dude who'd have punched his head off, or they've been killed in a war, or died because they were sickly. Or, I think the problem is our modern society actually allows that which would normally have been killed off by natural selection to exist.
That's an interesting question that one of
And
my friends posed to me.
I include pissing off another dude as part of natural selection.
Well, one of the things one of
I
my
mean, I think
friends
one of the
like
reasons people are so rude to each other now is because there is virtually no consequences to being rude to people.
right,
Like
and
you're
something
very unlikely to just get a casual slap anymore.
well, something one of my friends pointed out to me is like, is it the case that in World War II a sort of reverse eugenics happened, where we send like the most virtuous, the most courageous, the most manly of us, and a lot of them die in World War II? So is there like a reverse eugenic effect there?
But because a lot of them would have already had children.
Oh, I don't know. Not necessarily the 18-year-old storming Normandy.
Yeah, of course, a lot of them were already married when they went. Yeah, think
Oh
about
yeah,
the
but I
Toms,
mean, they
man.
might have had like more kids or whatever at that point. But like, point being, like, obviously, if they die in war, then their potential to spread their seed, even if they've spread it
No,
somewhat, is limited.
I'm just saying, like that generation wasn't, that we didn't have a massive population shortfall afterwards.
Sure, yeah.
So it wasn't like, I know what you mean, but and uh, and the women were pretty clear about what they thought about the guys who didn't go, especially in the UK. I don't know if you know, but so
Oh
they
yeah,
weren't
and
getting
it's funny.
the guys who didn't go weren't getting any puss. Put it that way.
That's kind of funny because not necessarily on the same terms, but within Marvel, like Captain America is kind of like the same thing, where it's like it's not even that other people are putting that expectation on him, but he's like, no, I need to fight in this war. Like,
Okay.
even though I'm like got asthma and shit, like, there is this expectation on me where it's like I feel like I'm not living up to what I should be doing if I don't like
Yeah, because
enlist.
he knew perfectly well if he didn't go, he'd never get his hole.
And then he goes and then gets frozen in ice, and his hole is like an old lady, and he has to like go back in time at the end of his journey to get it. But he got it though, so that's like the inspiring message there.
Yeah. It's all gone a bit quiet. What's going on here?
Yeah. I think we're starting to run out of energy.
Oh no, I wasn't even talking about this.
Oh, okay.
Something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, well, I know that. Okay, I'm gonna go on a rant, and before I do, I'm gonna take one final shot. This will be the last shot of this 151.
And roughly how much of the bottle have you drunk?
This will be like, I want to say my 5th shot. I've also smoked a decent amount of weed though. So I mean, no, tobacco, legal. I've smoked tobacco.
Well,
Pipe weed. I've smoked pipe weed.
any plant can be a weed if it's in a place you don't want it.
Yeah.
Holy shit, apparently there's a heat wave in California, 54 degrees.
Oh, nice. That should kill some California.
Even
That'd be terrible,
even as
that'd
an
be awful.
Australian, 54 degrees is a smidge much.
Yeah. I mean, I've had like 48, 49 in like Dubai and stuff like that. Fuck me. I mean,
Yeah, but
54.
Dubai's got a dry heat, doesn't it? Not a humid heat.
Yeah, Dubai's alright. If you literally just step into the shade, it's like but
Yeah.
because the air because there's no moisture in the air.
Wait, so when I was lifting,
stepping into the shade will make you cool, but
when I was listing off temperatures, Bezic, for like Texas, is that normal Aussie shit?
From where I am, well, I'm on the coast, so it's about normal for me. It gets hotter more further inland.
Everyone in Australia is on the coast. If you live in the middle,
Right.
you get eaten and killed.
Yes, by the local population, and I am not referring to the four-legged or no-legged kind.
Well, that's kind of the sadness about Australia.
Everything is relatively the coast in Australia, isn't it? I mean,
well, that's kind of the sadness about Australia's governance, because governance aside, Australia kind of seems like the rest of the world's Texas. It's like if they had like guns and free speech and shit, and like had that kind of culture of freedom, it would be like, oh man, like Aussies and Texans are like brothers in arms.
like window seats on flights in Australia are kind of pointless because it's just 6 hours of red.
Yeah, literally.
I will say this though, one of the things that makes me most happy.
Oh, there's red dirt. 6 hours later, red dirt. Oh, city.
So my parents and I frequently on vacation will go to like national parks in the US, which are really beautiful and shit. But then on the flight back at like night, I'll always ask for like the window seat because like I don't know why, but when I'm flying back to my home city at night and I have a window seat and I'm seeing all the lights of the city from above, that just strikes a certain feeling in me that is difficult to replicate.
Homosexuality, presumably.
No, like patriotism, love of home, you know.
Sounds pretty gay to me.
What C.S. Lewis would describe as the ordinate love for the thing which merits it.
I'll refer you to my earlier comment. Yeah. We don't go for that sort of stuff in Scotland.
Well, I mean, no, C.S. Lewis is based, so it's not what you're thinking.
Everything's what we're thinking here. If it's not exactly in line with standards, it's gay. That's pretty much that.
Yeah.
We don't go in for high vocabulary in Scotland.
I will say this. Oh my God, Bezic. I'll say this: if you know, this episode is fine staying up for now, but if I ever like don't get a job specifically because of what Spoon said on this one, you got to take it down. I'm not gonna make you take it down now, but if that ever happens once, like I'm gonna put that expectation on you.
To be honest, you've got bigger problems, just because of your, mechanical engineering degree, more than that.
Ooh, ouch!
Never letting that one go.
I don't know. As a backup, I could always do voice acting.
Yeah. But that puts you in direct competition with Spoon. Yeah. So.
Spoon has a better baseline voice, but I feel like I have more variance in the amount of voices that I can do.
I'd say that's true. But I'm gonna get
Yeah,
Spoon
with-
to record a very special audiobook for me to jerk off.
Well, with me, if I were a voice actor, it would be about the range. And with Spoon, it would be like if you were a voice actor, it'd be like one of those voice actors or actors who just does almost the exact same thing every time with some variation, and it's just charismatic on its own enough that it like works. That when you see it in one thing, and then you see the same, hear the same voice in another thing, you're like, yes, I want more of
I
it.
think I might offer Spoon enough money to do a reading of 50 Shades of Grey that he can't really. As he's talking on there, so he can't so that he can't refuse doing it. Largely just to expose him to the hacky writing.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I know some people who just make bad fucking decisions with money. And, I'm not immune to that. I'd say I probably spend maybe slightly above my living level, but certain shit comes in that saves me from that, like graduation presents. But it's like I'm getting $1,000 a month from like my parents for, college and shit. So it's like I get my own job, I'm making like $70,000 a year or higher. It's like I am not going to be spending even like half of that. But with some people I know, like I know this one guy, who has like a Google job, and he like Ubers or Lyfts everywhere constantly, eats out, and other kind of shit like that. Where he'll meet up with somebody he knows on the internet, right? Which is fine. He'll get a plane ticket to return home, and then he'll just not go on the flight because he doesn't want to wake up that early, and he'll just burn the money for that plane ticket, buy another one, sleep in again, not use it, and then buy a third one and then use it. That's just kind of like, I'm never going to make those kinds of decisions with the money I make. No. Like, if I'm making like 70,000 or higher a year, I'm saving most of that for when I get a wham and I want to propose to and like start a life with. I'm not a materialistic guy, but I want to be able to like give my family a bright future.
Yeah. Yeah, I went with a very different sort of plan.
Well, regardless of if you're high risk or like saving, you don't do what I just described my friend is doing, right?
No, I pretty much did. So I when I was like up until I was about 22, 23, 24, something like that, I just burned through money like it was just a joke. I worked on the assumption that I would eventually make so much money that it wouldn't matter how much I'd spent when I was younger.
I mean, fair enough, but I feel like if you pay for a plane ticket and then don't use it because you want to sleep in and then do that again 2 more times in a row before actually going on the flight you paid for, I feel like you're doing something very wrong there.
Depends on who you're sleeping in with.
No, this was like he came to a city with like nobody he knew except 2 of his friends who were chilling there. So he wasn't like fucking some bitch, right?
Wow, that's stupid then.
Yeah, exactly.
I spend my money on sports cars.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed this segment from the Sultans of Shadilay podcast.
If you like this segment, please click like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out the full podcast in the description below.